What's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for spending some time with us here for this Week 15 lineup show at Sports Ethos. I cannot believe it is Week 15 already. The NBA season has just flown by us, but we are here to help you guys out with all your sit-start decisions for this coming week. I'm Joe Orrico. Of course, you guys can find me on Twitter at Joe Orrico99. Joined, as usual, by my co-host, Stephen Vidovich. You guys can find him on Twitter at Stephen Vidovich with a PH. You guys can see it there on screen. Steve, how you doing today, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Excited for this week. I feel like we got quite a different schedule this week than we had last week. So excited to dive in and answer anyone's questions if you got some fantasy basketball questions. And for those of you who play fantasy baseball, I think Joe over here has been working real hard on getting fantasy baseball content out. Is that right?
It has been crazy. Like, okay, this is my first year doing content of any kind. And I figured, the 6-month off season, 5-month off season, I have all the time in the world to do everything I want, mock drafts and just waste time with whatever. I'm now panicking that I might not get everything I want to get out before the season because there's such a busy baseball off season. Doing team previews right now. You guys can check out the podcast, Fantasy MLB Today. If you guys don't subscribe, I'd really appreciate that. Tomorrow, Jeff Erickson is going to be on the podcast talking some Reds. He's a founder of RotoWire. Very good episode. We did one today with Chris Clegg from Pitcher List. So great stuff going on the pod right now. Show some support. Hit the subscribe button. Always appreciated. Do the same here on the Sports Ethos YouTube channel. Like and subscribe. Not all, but a lot of our content going forward, at least on baseball. I'm going to be trying to do live podcasts as often as I can. We're going to be doing mock drafts. We're going to be doing all kinds of stuff. And of course, our bread and butter here, basketball. We got a ton of basketball content pretty much every day of the week for you. There's a live show. Just takes 2 seconds. Hit the subscribe and like buttons. We'd really appreciate that. But we have more pressing topics than really any lineup questions, anything. I mean, this takes top priority here for us. According to reports, and we're still, not 100% certain because of the player we're talking about, but Jonathan Isaac is apparently going to be in the line. Well, he's available to play. So he's not in the lineup yet, but he's available to play. Are we trusting this, or do we actually need to see him put feet on the court before we're willing to add him at this point?
I've been saying I need to believe it to see it, or I need to see it to believe it, rather, this entire time. So I'm going to stick with that, even though it seems extremely likely that he gets in there and plays, somewhere 8 to 14 minutes tonight. Hasn't played since August of 2020. So very cool story if he's able to come back and actually see rotation minutes. Maybe a bigger role next season, not this season, in my opinion. I haven't picked him up in any standard league at this point. I play head to head mostly, so not looking to pick him up. But I guess it seems like he's going to grace the floor. I was under the belief that we might not see him this entire season, so he's going to go ahead and prove me wrong today, which is good for him. It's going to be interesting. I think that the Magic, I think we talked about it last week, they have practically no holdovers from the last time that Isaac played. Maybe Markelle Fultz is what I was thinking, but he might not have even been there. So they got Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, and definitely in front of him in the pecking order. Wendell Carter Jr., Bol Bol's probably ahead of him in the pecking order. So while he comes back today and he definitely has some upside down the road, if he's able to regain some of his 2019-20 form, I'm not going to pick him up in any head-to-head format. I'd let someone else deal with the headache that will be Jonathan Isaac. But great story. Happy to see him come back to the court tonight and happy to see him prove me wrong.
Well, I mean, to our credit, we were debating, I think going back to maybe week 1 of this show, if Jonathan Isaac was even going to play at all this year. It took 15 weeks. What's the fantasy season? 23, 24 weeks. So, I mean, we're mostly right. I've seen yesterday, I was out with some friends and I got a couple of notifications from Yahoo that Isaac was added in a couple of leagues. And I thought I was hallucinating for a second. But, he's gone up to 36% rostered, but it's kind of funny that a quarter of leagues were already rostering him before this, just hoping for the best. Now we kind of have to see what's going to happen. Very much doubting that he's going to be in the starting lineup, but those defensive stats that he was giving you a couple of years ago, those do not grow on trees. If he can even do half of what he was doing in that regard in 2020, then he's probably worth a pickup. But at this point, kind of got to wait and see. I haven't added him anywhere. I was kind of behind my Yahoo leagues. People were adding him up. I'm I'm just not there yet. Prove it to me first, and then I'll add him later on. If I miss out on him, I miss out on him. Like you said, it's pretty crowded in Orlando to begin with. Likely not going to see a massive role, but it's something that we're going to keep monitoring here. Every single week, we will do our Jonathan Isaac update, and it's actually very exciting that he's actually supposed to play. But we'll wait until tip off, and we'll see if there's any kind of nonsense, because I would not be shocked at all if there was something that happened. Oh, he's not playing tonight. It's going to be next week. Wouldn't shock me one bit. Now, Steve, you typically prepare notes before we get going here, talking about schedule advantages, disadvantages. Anything standing out for you this week in terms of any teams?
Yeah, the NBA is switching it up on us. The NFL has taken over Saturday and Sunday over the last couple of weeks, are actually dating back to the end of the regular season with Saturday NFL games. That ends this weekend with the NFC and AFC championship week. So there's no football on Saturday, and that means the NBA has switched up the schedule and made Saturday primetime NBA games, a lot of ABC games on Saturday. I think that's going to be the plan the rest of the season. So definitely different schedule this week. Tuesdays and Thursdays are not light like they normally are. The lightest day of the week is actually going to be Friday. We have a 5-game, or I'm sorry, the lightest day of the week is actually Sunday, 4 games, and then we have 5 games on Friday. So those are going to be your 2 lightest games of the week. I looked at the schedule breakdown for all 30 teams. We got pretty even mix between 3-game and 4-game weeks. We got 13 teams on a 4-game week and 14 teams on a 3-game week. And then we have 3 teams on a 2-game week. So those are teams in weekly lineup settings where you pretty much want to rest all of your non-superstars, like superstars like Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Stephen Curry, Joel Embiid, James Harden, if they're going to suit up this week. So those are the Warriors, the Thunder, and the Sixers. All 3 of those teams only have 2 games this week. So definitely want to be aware of that when you're doing weekly lineup settings. I looked at potentially the best schedule of the week and the worst schedule of the week. Worst schedule of the week, in my opinion, is going to be those Philadelphia Sixers, because not only do they have a 2-game week, but it actually occurs on the heaviest scheduled days of the week. So that's going to be Friday. The Sixers play on Saturday and Wednesday. So those days have 10 and 11 games. So your Philadelphia Sixers do not give you a schedule advantage at all this week. They're going to be my worst schedule of the week. And then my best schedule of the week, out of all of the teams that have 4-game weeks, only one has no back-to-backs. And that's going to be the Milwaukee Bucks. So in my opinion, the Bucks have the best schedule of the week. Hopefully we get, their guys to play all 4 games. I would say Middleton and Giannis are at the most risk of sitting out one of those games. They're both probable for Monday, but the Bucks, in my opinion, have the best schedule of the week with no back-to-backs, and the Sixers have the worst schedule of the week with 2 games, both on high-volume days.
Great stuff, as always, from Steve. You guys should, you might want to repeat that because it's just a lot of information if you just got to rewind for a minute or two. I've also linked the article that Derek Ball put out, I believe, earlier today or maybe late last night. I'm not sure when it went live exactly, talking about different schedule pieces of information for this week. Players to stream, schedule breakdowns, essentially, a more in-depth version of what we're going to be able to do here on the pod. But that's linked in the live chat. You guys can go check that out. Throw your questions in there. We're going to be here for the next 20-ish minutes, depending on how active you guys get. We're going to be taking any sit, start, lineup questions, trades, ads, drops, whatever you guys got. We got one here. First of all, thank you very much for the kind words there, Cramdala. Appreciate that. You got a question about TJ McConnell. Will he maintain any relevance when Hallie returns? I'm doubtful. What are your thoughts, though, Steve?
Yeah, I'd say it's a long shot. I mean, it's a possibility that he holds on to like super late round 12 team value for assists and steals specifically, but I'm in the camp that he's going to fall off the map when Halliburton returns in shallow category formats. But great pickup. He was the pickup over Andrew Nembhard. I guess Nembhard is now dealing with an illness on top of his inability to really stand out in Halliburton's absence. So enjoy McConnell while it lasts. Once Halliburton returns, I'd go ahead and drop him.
We got a question here coming about Brandon Ingram as well. I'm just going to see if there's been any particular update about.
Yeah, I actually I blurbed this out earlier today, and if you guys want the most up to date fantasy NBA information, go check out our blurb feed. Brandon Ingram did 5-on-5 full participation today after doing 5-on-5 on Saturday. So the quote was hopeful that he would return this week or for the 3-game homestand, which is this week. I believe it's Tuesday, Wednesday, and I think a game over the weekend. I'm not sure if it's Friday or Saturday. So they have 3 games this week. Obviously, he's not going to play Tuesday and Wednesday with the back-to-back. My best guess is that if he does come back this week, which I'm not going to guarantee anything with Ingram based on what we've seen, even though all signs are positive, and I would, if I was to go to Vegas, I would bet that he comes back this week. I would bet that it's either the Wednesday game or the game over the weekend would be my best bet. But I don't think it's far from a guarantee. But the 5-on-5 practice participation twice within 72 hours is really encouraging. And I know he's been like on track to return for what seems like a month now. So I think that we're going to get both Ingram and Middleton back to allow fantasy managers to not grow any more gray hairs.
And allow Dan Vespers to get a proper good night's sleep once Chris Middleton is back, because that's been causing him quite a bit of turmoil, understandably. It's actually a 4-game week for the Pelicans. They play both days over the weekend. So will he get in 1-2 games this week? It's likely. Still got to see, but like you said,
definitely not going to play in both of the back-to-backs,
no,
right? So
no,
if they have 2 back-to-backs this week, maximum Ingram plays is 2 games this week.
Yeah, absolutely. 2 games is about as much as you're going to probably see out of him. Throw your questions in the chat, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Like I said off the top, this is where we're going to be putting a lot of our baseball content. A lot of basketball content is already on here. Make sure you subscribe. Never miss any of our new stuff. Now, just taking a look at some of the injury stuff from the last day or so. The biggest one that stands out is Kristaps Porzingis. To me, he's considered week to week. What are your thoughts on Porzingis? Is there a clear replacement for you there?
Yeah, I mean, Daniel Gafford should already be on rosters now for the next couple weeks. Woj came out with something saying that that there's optimism that Kristaps could be back within 2 weeks. Wizards have 7 games over that stretch. So a conservative estimate is you're picking up Gafford for a 7-game window that could extend, to 10 games if the optimism doesn't come true and Kristaps is out for a little bit longer. So Gafford is definitely the guy I am picking up.
Gafford makes total sense. Dan here chiming in, saying he'll never forgive the Bucks for their BS with Middleton during draft season. For me, playing fantasy basketball, it's kind of par for the course almost. Like there's specific instances where it's really annoying. We saw it last year a lot with the Grizzlies, like Jaren Jackson. But it just kind of comes with the territory of playing fantasy basketball. Is there's going to be nonsense. There's going to be 6:58, and you guys not you think he's playing the 7 p.m. game, but he ends up not playing. Like there's just so much stuff like that it's my least favorite part of fantasy sports in general, but specifically basketball. It can really suck, the injury stuff. And Dan, we feel for you here with the Chris Middleton talk. Won't be ready to start the year 6 weeks later. Yeah, Dan's venting in the chat. Can't blame him. The NBA is very frustrating in terms of their injury reporting, and they don't care about fantasy players. We care about ourselves. We care about our rosters, but at the end of the day, they don't care about giving us any advance notice to make any pickups. And I mean, rightfully so, I guess. Jalen Williams actually for the Thunder. I don't know if you saw that tweet, Steve. He said something, I forget how he phrased it, but I couldn't care less about I think he used some colorful language in there at some point. I couldn't care less about your parlays or your fantasy teams or whatever you're doing. That's generally the mentality they should have, but it's, of course, kind of frustrating for us here trying to set our lineups week in and week out.
Yeah, and the smaller the market, the less news we get. So, like, Bucks just unfortunately have to be in a small market. Ingram also of the Pelicans, small market. So your small market teams are going to be more frustrating than your big market teams like the Knicks or the Lakers or the Warriors these days. They're going to give you more information, where these small market teams can get away with things like the Grizzlies too. In a way, they could. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. had like a similar thing where we had no idea when he was coming back last season, I believe. So there's you always have to be more aware of your small market teams. One thing I wanted to mention to everybody listening is Sports Ethos is doing a first annual mock trade deadline. So if you go on Twitter, you look up Sports Ethos, you can find all of the links. We have 30 general managers, fake general managers who are taking on a team and they're making trades. We actually already have some trades that have gone down. So definitely go and check those out. Agree with the trades. Check out what your favorite team is doing. I think it's a really fun exercise that one of our podcast, Bird Rights Pod, put together. So definitely go and check that out, you guys. Going to be a lot of fun to watch over the coming weeks with the trade deadline. That's going to be on February 9th. If you guys have any stash questions or trade deadline questions, put them here in the chat. But the actual trade deadline's on the 9th. Our fake trade deadline, our mock trade deadline, that's going to end on February 2nd, 1 week ahead of the actual trade deadline. So definitely just like a fun little exercise to see what teams do. And I'm really excited. I actually already saw a couple of the trades that went down, and they're pretty interesting. All these teams going in different directions, and I definitely love the idea. It's always fun to get fake trades out there.
I saw the list that the Sports Ethos account tweeted out of all the names. There's some pretty decently sized personalities in there. I'm not sure if there's beat writers, but there's some legit verified people in those chats. No, none of the Twitter blue folks. Which as a side note, I'm kind of debating day in and day out if I should just go and pony up for that. But we got some honest to goodness verified legit people. Reporters and different personalities in there. Check out Sports Ethos on Twitter and check us out here on YouTube. Of course, you're already here on YouTube, so hit the subscribe button. Stephen Bagel, great job. He did pulling that together. He's also one of our baseball contributors, Stephen. He works very hard for us. Both Stevens, we got pulling a lot of the weight here for us at Sports Ethos. Always appreciated. Now, in terms of the trade stuff, have you seen anything go down in terms of John Collins, in terms of these mocks? Because our next question is regarding him. Will he end up getting moved by the deadline? Tough question, but have our fake GMs answered it for us?
No, I haven't seen that one yet. I've only seen about 12 to 15 trades that have gone down. And the first few were involving the Wolves, Raptors, and Jazz on the mock trade deadline. In terms of actual trade deadline, John Collins, what I've heard in terms of rumors, and we got a trade rumor page if you guys want to go and see all of them in one easy to find place. The Jazz and the Hawks supposedly had talks about John Collins, and the Jazz wanted the Hawks to throw in a first-round pick in order for the Hawks to move off of John Collins as if it was a salary dump. And what I heard is that what was reported was that Landry Fields, the Hawks general manager, does not see Collins as a salary dump. So right now, I think where we're at is teams trying to, buy low, sell high kind of a thing. So obviously the Hawks want as much as they can get. A team like the Jazz, who supposedly has interest in Collins, they want to get as much as they can get. I mean, you got Danny Ainge there. You saw what he did with Gobert. So right now, I would say it's totally unknown whether Collins will be on the Hawks after the deadline.
One of the most talked about, maybe the most talked about player in terms of rumors leading up to the deadline. There's actually a trade, I guess we should mention it, that happened earlier today. My phone was blowing up with Woj notifications. Rui Hachimura going to the Lakers. Does that change anything for you from a fantasy point of view?
I think in points leagues, Rui could definitely have a little bit more value with the Lakers than he did in Washington. He doesn't have the best stat set for category formats. But in terms of points leagues, if you're looking for somebody on the lower end of the spectrum and maybe like a 12 team or 14 team points league, I think that Rui could have some value, especially in the short term until Anthony Davis comes back. I don't know how quickly that trade will process and how quickly he'll be available for the Lakers. I believe they play tomorrow, and I doubt he's available as early as Tuesday. But I do think there is some low end value specifically in points leagues. But in terms of Kendrick Nunn going the other way, nothing to see there. Category leagues, it's more of a wait and see for me. But points leagues, I have a little bit of interest in Rui on the Lakers.
Okay, that's good to know. You guys maybe take a look at him in your points leagues. Depending on how deep it is, he might be available on your waiver wire. We got another question here from ZB. 9-cat head-to-head, 12-team need to activate Chris Paul off the IL. We dropping Victor Oladipo, Bruce Brown, or TJ McConnell. My first thought is TJ McConnell here, probably. What are your thoughts, though, Steve?
Yeah, I mean, the window is the shortest for McConnell. He's going to give you more value in the short term, but that window is going to be the shortest. So I think it makes sense to drop McConnell there. I'd rather hold on to Bruce Brown and Oladipo if I can. Um, I I don't know how long you could keep Chris Paul on your IL just to squeeze one more game out of McConnell. If that's something you can do, I would wait maybe a day or two longer to see, try and squeeze as much as you can. Maybe there's an injury tonight. If you could wait past tonight's slate, maybe that makes sense. If you have to drop somebody, I agree with you, Joe. I think it is McConnell.
I don't know if how much I trust Oladipo long term, but I think once Halliburton is back, there's probably not going to be much room for McConnell to have much value. Now, I feel like it's kind of generally, this is going to sound like kind of lazy analysis, but try and trade McConnell if you can. I know it's kind of what everybody tries to say. You probably won't be able to. I think generally people know that Halliburton's going to be coming back. It's going to kill his value to, I mean, some extent, probably a large extent. But maybe throw a couple offers around there. Maybe not just McConnell, package him up with somebody else. McConnell and a top 75 player, trade him for a top 50 player, something like that. See if you can kick some tires around. I don't like to give that advice because it's the simplest thing you can do. Trade them. You got dropped 3 guys, trade 2 of them. It's a lot harder to do in reality, but I think it's something that you might be able to bank. I mean, you just had a triple double the other night. If somebody hasn't been paying attention in the last couple of days, might be able to take advantage in a trade there. Guys, continue to throw your questions in. We'll go for another 10, 15 minutes, depending on how active you guys get. Remember to subscribe to the channel, hit the like button so other people can see this as well. Trying to grow out our page here as much as possible. We got more of a Twitter presence than a YouTube presence, but we're trying to change that and get that sweet equilibrium, I believe Dan Besbris referred to it as. Maybe he still does. He can let us know between Twitter and the podcast and everything going on all at once. So make sure you guys hit the subscribe button. Next question we got. Rob just ruled out. Is Grant Williams a good stream in points leagues? Rob Williams just ruled out. I would imagine. Grant Williams, what are your thoughts there, Steve? I like Grant Williams as a whole. Are you picking him up here without Rob Williams?
Yeah, in a points league, I just don't think Grant Williams has like the stat set for a points league. He does like more of the dirty work. It's possible that he has some value, but I'd rather look elsewhere for a stream in points leagues rather than pick up Grant. I know that he could also benefit from the absences of Brogdon and Marcus Smart, but I'm just not there in a points league setting. I'd be more interested in category leagues than points leagues with Grant.
Yeah, I really like Grant Williams. From what I remember, I think that our guys here, I think Brewski was big on him heading into the year. He's returned pretty good value, but he's definitely more so of a category league play, I think. Next question from ZB again. Is Avdia a viable pickup for the next 2 weeks given KP's injury? Not maybe back end value, but I think Gafford, like you said earlier, is probably the preferred pickup there. What do you think, Steve?
Yeah, I definitely would prefer having Gafford on my roster, but Avdia has definitely a path to short-term value, especially in category formats during Kristaps' injury. There's going to be there is a path. I would much prefer Gafford and DeLon Wright to Avdia. Those would be my top 2 streamers in category leagues before I gave Avdia a look, but he would be third up for me. So I think it's something to consider.
Yeah, I think he's probably closer to a back end option. I mean, he's already been getting fairly decent minutes going back over the last few weeks. You're looking at like 27, 28, 29 minutes. It's dipped below 20 occasionally, but generally he's in that mid 20s range. Maybe he pushes up close to 30 and you can have some back end value for a couple weeks. I mean, with Porzingis too, they're not being that transparent. They said he's week to week. Is that going to be a month? Is that going to be longer? With Porzingis, he's always a headache with injuries to begin with. So maybe you look at the longer end of that timeline, and perhaps Avia will have some value, specifically in a deeper league for sure, like a 10-team league. Probably not 12s and 14s. I think that's where you're starting to pique my interest a little bit with Denny Avdia. Next question we got: LaMelo is seemingly back soon. Does Hayward retain value at all when that happens? I'd like to think he will. Historically, he's been fairly valuable. I mean, I know he hasn't been great recently this season. I mean, this season he hasn't been great recently. He's been not too bad. I'd like to think that he probably can hold some kind of value. I wouldn't be rushing to drop him, but he's not as exciting as he was in previous years. What are your thoughts on Gordon Hayward, Steve?
Yeah, I don't see it
No.
this season with the way he's played. I could see another hamstring injury taking him out for a short period of time. I have no idea what the Hornets are doing. I don't have that much faith in many of their players. So I would rather not deal with the headache that is Gordon Hayward. I don't even know if he will end up being a top 100 player if LaMelo is out for an extended stretch based on what we saw earlier in the year. So I'm just not there with Hayward. I know he had a good game in his return, 9 points on 4 of 9 shooting, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, a steal, 2 blocks. But I mean, on the season as a whole, the guy has just not delivered anywhere close to like top 150 value. So I'm not there until he does it for a consistent stretch. Maybe you could try to sell high. Selling high would just be trying to get anything of value in return for him after that one good game. Is the way I would approach it, and I'm not holding on to him anywhere.
Wow. Okay. I'm kind of torn because we do see generally much better value from Hayward than what we've seen this year. LaMelo with the injuries, maybe he's back for good. Maybe he misses more time. I guess I'm more on the optimistic side of Gordon Hayward. I don't know that I would be necessarily dropping him. Like if you're in a 12-team league and he's sitting on your waiver wire, you wouldn't pick him up for your worst player. You'd be avoiding him altogether there.
I guess it depends on who my worst player is, but
Fair,
like
yeah,
if
fair.
I'm gonna throw out a name that is available in a lot of leagues, like Alex Caruso is a guy I would rather have rostered than Gordon Hayward right now.
Okay.
I'd rather have Daniel Gafford than Hayward. I'd rather have DeLon Wright than Gordon Hayward. So there's a lot of like lower end guys that I just have place a lot more value in. I see Hayward missing more time as this season goes on, not less time. I just and I could be wrong. If we see like a 14-day sample of him delivering value that we've seen in previous seasons, like maybe this latest hamstring injury, the time off, maybe it did him well, and he's going to continue to perform like he did in his first game back. I just need to see it for longer than one game. So it would have to be like a 2-week sample before I have faith in picking up Hayward. So it's a no for me, depending on like we had the question earlier. I would rather have TJ McConnell, Bruce Brown, and Victor Oladipo before Hayward right now.
You take
So
McConnell with a healthy Halliburton over
I would
Hayward?
take no, I would take the window of McConnell
Okay.
without Halliburton. Once Halliburton comes back, you're right. Then it flip flops, and I'm not even sure. I might, if I was just looking for like low end assists and steals, I might even go McConnell before Hayward in that instance, unless Hayward starts to play better. I don't have the faith yet. I need to see more.
That's totally fair. He has not been great this season. I guess there's part of me that's a sucker for a track record. He does have a track record of being, not an amazing fantasy player, but certainly better than he's outside the top 200 this year. I don't know. We'll agree to somewhat disagree. I don't like strongly disagree or anything. I think that he is probably replaceable. And there go the lights finally. But they were due to go off at some point. I guess I'm just hoping for a bit of a rebound back to closer to what we've seen in previous years from him. We'll agree to disagree there. I don't think that it's going to be. I don't think he's going to have a lot of value. I think maybe back end, but at the same time, you could use that spot for streaming, and I wouldn't give you a hard time about it either. Who do you got rest of the season, Steve? I know who I've got probably.
Yeah, I think we're right there together. We're not going to be disagreeing on this one. Give me
No.
Gafford all day, every day. Isaac, I really need to see him on the floor. I don't really think I'm picking him up. Even if he like puts up, couple blocks and a steal in 12 minutes today, let's say, I'm still going to wait. I'm not going to preemptively add a guy who hasn't played basketball since August of 2020. I'm going to wait until he puts together some sort of stretch of NBA reps. So give me Gafford.
Yeah, I agree. I just went to go check and make sure that he hadn't been ruled out in this last half an hour or so, because it would not have shocked me. But he is, according to the sources, he is playing. He's not in the starting lineup, but we weren't really expecting that. That would have been maybe a little too hopeful. But yeah, you got to go with Gafford, especially right now, until he actually proves it. Josh Richardson, will he keep this run volume up while Vasella's out? I've seen some rumors today that Josh Richardson is on the market, that he's going to be possibly traded, and they're looking for a second round pick in return. I believe that is about Josh Richardson. You see the same thing there?
I believe it. I haven't seen that exact report from today, but he's on an expiring contract, getting the money to match. I think he's like around that 10 million range, from what I believe. I'm not 100% sure there. So getting the money to match would be definitely something that would need to happen in order to make a trade go down. But that trade that you're talking about is the only way that he doesn't keep this volume up while Vassell is out. If he stays with the Spurs past the deadline, I like Richardson to continue this production, deliver, let's say, top 80 per game value in 9-cap formats. I think that's reasonable with some upside baked in. I think top 80 is very reasonable for him.
Yeah, I agree. As long as he's staying there, then odds are that he will be able to maintain that while Vassell is out. Who do we prefer better rest of season hold? Victor Oladipo, Bruce Brown, if we wanted to open a streaming spot. Oladipo is more of the upside play. I think Brown's probably got the safer floor, and we don't have to worry so much with the injury risk with him. I'd probably go Bruce Brown, but it's pretty damn close. What are your thoughts, Steve?
I really agree with you there. I think Brown is definitely the safer floor. Oladipo has more upside in my opinion. I think I would personally like to keep Bruce Brown for that safe floor. I'm a little bit more conservative with my moves. So if I did want to open up a streaming spot, I guess Bruce Brown. But I guess if I'm struggling in the standings, then maybe give me Oladipo as an upside play. But I think I would lean Brown if I had a gun to the head, had to pick.
Yeah, it's pretty close. I just don't really trust Oladipo to stay healthy for that long, I guess, in the back of my head. But ranked very close together this season. Different, generally. I mean, not even too different, really, in terms of what they're giving you. More a matter of your risk-taking preference. We're gonna wrap it up in a second here, but Steve, is there anything else that we have failed to go over that you think is important for the folks to know about for fantasy this week?
I would just say for everybody watching, definitely go check out our mock trade deadline. We got trades that are going to be coming out on the daily, maybe even hourly. So these are fake mock trades. Go ahead and give us your feedback, what you think, who won, who lost, all of these fake trades. And then I do something on Discord. I bring it on Twitter every day. Friday, I actually hit real big with Ty Jerome, having great value as a 0% rostered player on Yahoo. So today I gave out a couple of plays. I don't like them as much as Friday's plays, but these are all guys that are on 9% or less of Yahoo rosters. And I'll give them out here before I post them on Twitter. Give me Drew Eubanks, who's at 8% with Yusuf Nurkic's struggles. No, I don't think he's going to have another 6 blocks tonight. But with Nurkic's struggles, I could see Eubanks outplaying him again and give you those traditional big man stats. He's my preferred play of the day. And then the other play, I'm going to be really stubborn. I'm going to stick to my guns. Give me Gary Payton II. I know he's been extremely disappointing. He's disappointed the Blazers. by his long-term absence to start the year. But I like Gary Payton II against the lowly Spurs to get back on track, deliver a steals specialist skill set, and he's only on 8% of rosters as well. So if you're in deep leagues and you need a boost in steals, look for Gary Payton. I prefer Eubanks, especially going up against his former team, but I also like Gary Payton II.
Steve's been doing the yeoman's work. You guys should follow him over on Twitter. He does this every day. He's doing a fantastic job. Great advice as usual, Steve. We got one more question here. We could both take a shot at this one. Better stream for defensive stats, Caruso or Pat Williams? I'm going with Caruso personally. Much higher steal numbers. The blocks are essentially a wash. Maybe a slight lean to Patrick Williams, but I'm going to take Caruso for the whole defensive output in general.
Yeah, give me Caruso for sure. Only downside there is he's a candidate to get traded, and that would be the only reason why I might lean Pat Williams a little bit more. If they were both staying on the Bulls through the trade deadline, Caruso's a slam dunk, but I do think Caruso is going to get moved. That's one of the guys I think is most likely to get moved. And so if he gets moved, then I'll lean back towards Patrick Williams because of the uncertainty of Caruso's destination.
Yeah, that is totally fair. Guys, we're going to wrap it up there. Before you guys head out, if you could hit the like and subscribe buttons, really help us boost this show, boost the channel, and our network in general. We'd really appreciate that. It's free. It just takes 2 seconds. Just hit the subscribe button. That's all you got to do. You get all of our content here right when it drops. Of course, follow us on Twitter at Joe Orrico99, at Stephen Vidovich. That's with a PH if you guys are just zoning out and have this on in the background. Stephen with a PH, not with a V. You guys can find Steve's work every single night there. He's doing these streams. Really great for deeper leagues. I'm transitioning more into baseball. You guys follow me. You're going to see a lot of baseball content coming up. We're going team previews. We got rankings. We got our draft guide that's going to be dropping somewhere in the middle of February, middle to late February. Don't want to give an exact date yet because it's still tentatively. We're figuring out who's doing what's going to involve who, yada, yada, yada. But at end of February, there's going to be a draft guide. There's going to be a ton of baseball content this year. We've got a great team of writers and podcasters. Should be a lot of fun. Follow along for the ride. Hit that subscribe button. Check us out over on Twitter. And we'll see you again next week. Hopefully you guys have a successful week. And until then, cheers, everybody. Take care.